done it. So it's all 16 valves in, all ready to go. Tomorrow I've got a big delivery turning up with camshafts and head gaskets and other odds and sods. All I really need is the head gaskets to put these on. I'm going to put the exhaust. So we're having a little bit of fun here, trying to get studs out of the. This will be the passenger side exhaust manifold. And one broke off as I was trying to remove the fucking downpipe, and the other one's broken off as I tried to remove it. And these things, they're prehistoric. I bought some new studs, and the idea was to fit them into that manifold because I thought this manifold was cracked. I thought it was cracked down here. However, I've been over it, and I actually just think it's casting. I don't think it's even casting defects. If it is cracked, it's cracked from there to there, which I don't see how that would ever happen. I just think it's crap on the exhaust. These things they rot. So originally that line went all the way up to here. Okay, and when I got the wire brush on it, the line disappears. So I just think it's probably not cracked. Although now it's looking like it's fucking cracked again. This is probably why I stopped using this thing in the first place. I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with that because I do think that is cracked. You can see it there. It is cracked. Let me balance this. If I balance this up here so we get the light right. Now, you can basically see the crack. It runs along there and right the way up to the top here. It's not terminal yet. And I probably could get away with a... because I actually cleaned all the rust away, so I think that is cracked. Probably could do with a blob of weld, but I don't like welding exhaust manifolds. There's also a crack round here, look, you can see it. So that's on its way, that one. What an arse of a job. Done it though. Let's turn the spades down a minute. Yeah, what an arse of a job. Got them all out. I've blown it all through. This one here, I did go a little bit wide. So I didn't manage to get it. I was about 0.5 millimetre off on the centre. But the stud goes in. And when it goes right in, it is wobbly. So I might end up putting a nut and bolt through this one. That is accessible. And I'll get another manifold. There's no way am I going to helicoil this cast manifold. This thing resisted all efforts, every effort, this one. Welded nuts, all manner of everything. And you can see how rusty the thread is in there. That's the bit that I managed to chip out. So this is the remains of the stud. Yeah, it was properly locked in. Bastard thing. Might do it that way round. Would it work that way round? Trouble is, it's too wobbly. That's the problem. And if it's wobbly, it means I'll be able to pull it fucking right the way out. I'll get a piece of studding and put a nut and bolt through it. Worst case scenario. It's the one that's most accessible anyway, so that's not really a huge problem. The other two, no problems at all. Right, let's clean this thing up now and fit it on the bloody head, which is what I was going to do 2 hours ago. Not bad, eh? When you put the exhaust manifold gaskets on these Rover V8 heads, it is quite possible to get these things wrong, badly wrong. So I've had these things apart before now, and they look like that. You know, there's just kind of, they've not even had gaskets in there. There is a particular way that they go round. There is only one way they go round. And as long as the bolt holes and the porthole lines up, they're the right way round. So I lay them on there. Then I'm going to lay the exhaust on, and then I've got the locking tabs here, all nice and ready and waiting to go on. No point videoing this because it's boring. Shit work really, but assembly shit work rather than shit work. Yay! It's like Christmas all over. Nice pair of BMAT composite head gaskets. They're going to go on very, very, very shortly. I shall video it for you. We've got an inlet manifold gasket, composite. Put that over there, just keep it nice and safe. I think it's about to fucking piss down with rain. We're not going to rain a little bit here, I don't think. I think this is going to be biblical. Look at that. That's going to be a biblical shower, that one. Right. We've got a pair of rocker gaskets, which is good, and a timing cover gasket, which is good. We've got some extra high quality tappets, hydraulic tappets. We have got a timing chain. We have got a pair of valley seals and a front timing cover seal. Woohoo! Camshaft, and that's the box the camshaft came in. I've already had a nose, and then the rest of this stuff is oil pump rebuild. So all of this oil pump stuff I can put over on the bench. I don't need that stuff here because I want to rebuild the oil pump up here. When it gets particularly inclement, I shall be working over here. Let's get all this Southpaw loom out of the way. Southpaw loom's all out of the way. That can all stay there. Oh, it's been raining inside the barn. The condensation be coming down from the ceiling, perhaps. That's pen face. Go there. Right, so I think today we are going to get this engine back together again. So I'm going to start. Right, let's start off by putting this camshaft in. So, Mr. Camshaft, delicate lobes, delicate everything on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lube up the main bearings on the camshaft. There's 5 of them. There's 1 at the end, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bearings decrease in size as you go along. So really you want to make sure that this thing goes in nice and clean and you don't end up clattering into the bearing shells, because it's just going to cause problems. Also I need to lift the aircon rad out of the bloody way because it is in the way. We need to be quite generous with the lubing of the bearings, and I'm going to do them one at a time, and I'm going to lube them as they go in, each one. I'm not going to worry about the lobes at the moment. I'm going to do the lobes. Come on, in you go. Starts getting a trick to only 2 fucking hands. Doesn't help with this flat thing in the way. There we are, it's through. Let's go to the next one. I normally would use a graphogen assembly lube on these, but you guessed it, I've left it at the other place at home, which is spectacularly useless of me. But these things happen. Right, we're almost there. We're on to the last bearing now. Right, now I can be ready. I've got the front bearing located. There we are, and he's in. All you need to do, get the camshaft in. Right, next thing I need to do is I need to get the Woodruff key out of the old cam. So you go and get that. I need to knock it out with a hammer because I'm going to need that. I'm going to need to put the timing cover on and ensure that the timing marks and the crank are absolutely top dead centre. So I'll bring that back with me as well. I've got the crank pulley up here already, and it is fucking pissy there. What a shit day. Right. Timing gear. We need to get the timing gear back on. So I've installed the camshaft, as you've seen. I've set the engine to top dead centre, as you've seen. And really I want to get the timing chain and the gears in the right location so that then the valve timing is absolutely bang on. Because if the valve timing is not correct, then I'm either going to put myself at risk of valves clattering into pistons, or just the engine will not start. So on the gears, they very helpfully put 2 marks. There's a dot on the crankshaft gear and there's a line on the camshaft gear. Now I know from the picture that when the crankshaft is at, let's say, about 2 o'clock, and you can see that from the oil splash on the old style oil splash on the front there. So the crank's at 2 o'clock, then the cam's at 9 o'clock. And I've set them roughly in that position. So I know that the crank is in a fixed position because I've already set top dead centre by putting the timing cover on, and I've not budged that since. And now I'll put the camshaft at the 9 o'clock position. So the woodruff key there is 9 o'clock. So then it's a case of what I do, I position the crank gear just on the edge of the woodruff key. So there's enough room for me to slip the chain over it and push the chain on. Because what I now need to do is position the cam wheel with the chain like that, put the cam wheel over the top, and then line it all up and shove it on. So let me go to the tripod, because I basically need 2 hands in order to do this, and I've got slippery hands at the moment as well holding my phone. Right, okay, you can see me working down there. You've got the yellow bar of the light, but sorry about that, tough shit. Okie doke. So now, the other thing is these marks, that pointer there and the dot on the crankshaft pulley needs to be aligned. And that is it. So basically what I've got is the dot and the line are absolutely spot on. The camshaft is at 9 o'clock position. The crankshaft's at the 2 o'clock position at top dead centre. So I now know that that cam timing is absolutely spot on. So the next thing I need to do with the camshaft is to position on the spacer. This spacer would have originally been for the fuel pump, which would have sat over here on the early Rover V8 engines. Now on this one there's a big flange. Flange sits outwards towards the gear. This gear, not that gear. This gear is a skew gear for the distributor, and there's like a little oil well on here as well with some crack hand, and the flange goes towards the slot. It goes on like that. Then we've got the bolt. Now I'll put a bit of thread lock on this, and then I will position the bolt and torque him up. I might need to, I should be able to torque this up actually. I might need to just brace the wheel in order to torque it up. But let me go and check the settings on that, and then I can finish off the camshaft. 45 foot-pounds. So a little bit of thread lock on there, because I don't want this fucker undoing. And then we will wind him in. I've already checked this is the right bolt for this anyway, before I put the camshaft in. Oh my goodness, temperature dropped quite suddenly. Right, now we're looking for 45 foot-pounds, and this is going to turn unfortunately, but I'm just going to have to reset top dead centre when I've finished it. It might turn, it might not. Yes, it's going to turn. So what I need to do is find a way of bracing that into there. That's sort of bracing. Right, there's a brace. There we are, 45 foot-pounds. Okay, it's set. So that's camshaft and timing chain. Next, we're going to put in the hydraulic tappet. So what I really need to do is to lube up each one of these lobes. Lots of oil. It's all dribbling down into the sump. It's not a huge issue here, but I really want this camshaft to be absolutely fucking saturated. It's a 2050 oil I'm putting on here. I'm not going to pre-soak the tappets because I need to check for the clearance on the tappet before it goes in. So these little fellows come in a nice blue box with a nice blue wrapping are quite sexy really. I should strip one of these apart for you and show you really what they do. But they're hydraulic tappet. Okay, so again it's a case of lubing these up around the edges. What do I do with my grease gun? There's my grease gun. In fact I could just lube over the outside and then shove him in. Try and get this head dropped into position, which is there. That is the head dropped into position. So basically what we've got 7 of the shorter bolts which go on the top row. They go one at the front, one at the back. By moving that loom I should have a bit more access to put these fucking things in. Let me just find
A few moments later.
This is the style of torque wrench I like using, because you can see how progressively it's doing up, and certainly when you've got things like alloy threads and alloy head bolts, it does become a bullseye. Next thing I do is I look at the manual, and the manual gives me an indication there of the head torquing sequence. So we'll put him up there in the same angle as I'm going to be working. Let's wedge him underneath the ABS. There he is, he's under there now. Whoops, knock the camera over. No, camera's moved a tiny bit. We'll move the camera back up again. Right, okay, so we'll start, and what we'll basically do is we'll torque these things down to about, let's take the extension off, we don't need that. We'll go to about 30, and then we're going to go up to 70. And basically when you're torquing it down, you want a nice fluid movement. You don't want to be jerking it or yanking it or doing anything stupid that means that you're going to get a false reading. 30. And the reason I go to 30 and then to 70 is because if I was to go to 60 and 70, I'd probably get to 70 straight away from 60, because I need a certain amount of torque to get past the resistance. So by going to 30, I'm ensuring that the thing is bedded down nice and flat. And then I'm going to go from 30 to 70, which shouldn't need to overcome any particular resistance. And they need to be down to 40. That's a piece of piss really by comparison. So let me go and grab those. They're much shorter anyway. And it's a possibility the longer bolts. I mean, there will be some rule of thought, I'm sure, about longer bolts carry more torque in their shaft than shorter bolts. I don't know. I don't know about these things. I don't understand. In fact, I'm going to struggle to get these in with a fucking exhaust manifold on. No, I'm not. Once they're in, they're fine. Right, let's get these wound in. I'll wind these 4 in, then I'm going to torque them up, and then we'll go on to the other side. You don't need to watch me swearing at these. When you're putting the inlet manifold gasket on, there's a top tip here. It helps if you put that bolt in, second bolt in on the left hand side. There's a slot for it, and it helps if you just pivot it in on that. Also, be aware, the front 2 holes on the inlet manifold are longer. Need longer bolts. All the other bolts are the same length. Those 2 are the long ones. Yep. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Nothing particularly exciting. As you see, I've left the fuel rail and everything on it. That's going to go in now. Another top tip here is I've taped over the inlet. I'm not going to put the trumpet base or anything like that on just yet, because I've got to get all the cables and everything over. I've got to get all of the connectors on, the electrics in for the injectors and so forth. And if I drop anything down the inlet at this stage, honestly, you'll hear me swearing from wherever you are in the planet, on the planet. You will hear me swear. So that's why I take that up. I've used duct tape, which is a pain in the ass because it leaves a residue on the surface, but nothing that a bit of thinners on a rag won't get rid of. So it's a sensible move. Block it up, stop yourself all the pain. Right, the other thing I've forgotten about is I need to find some fixings to hold the cam covers down, because there's no way am I going to use those original fucking things. So, for the oil pump, if you remember, we had the oil pump gears, which were showing signs of wear, and I bought brand spanking new ones. Woohoo! So all we do, really, before we even unwrap the bag, is just do a visual check, make sure it looks the same length, make sure it's got the same end, make sure it's got the same diameter, the same mesh, blah, 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 and it has, of course it has. Well, I say of course it has. Then we will position the main shaft, make sure it fits, which it does. We'll need to check the clearance on the end. We'll do that. Then we've got the other gear, a little slave gear, which again looks nice, doesn't it? That'll do. That little fella goes on there. That's those two. Now let's get the book face out, because I need to know what the tolerance is for if the measurement is less than the, no, it's more than, it's not less than, it's more than, so but not much more than. It goes. Right, so we're happy with the tolerance on those gears. Next thing we're going to do, I think, is we're going to put this away. We're going to put in the pressure release spring and its little piston. So we've got here a new piston, a new plunger, rubbish, new plunger, look at that, it's sexy, isn't it? New spring. Got to watch out for the condensation of this bloody barn, I tell you. Right, visual check, old spring to new spring, just make sure they're roughly the same. If anything, the new spring is slightly longer, but by half a, you can't see any of that. Just do a visual check between old spring and new spring. That's the old spring, that's the new spring. And we're talking, if I line them up beautifully, there we are, probably just about half a turn. So that's okay. And the other thing we'll check is we'll make sure that the plungers are the same diameter. You can see the wear on the old one compared to the new one. So, let's get some oil and we'll shove him in. He goes in there. He goes in quite neatly actually. Yes, I see, he goes in quite neatly. Right, and then the end cap, there's this bastard on here with a girt big fat copper washer on it. I'll put him back in. And he's gone in. Going to torque that down. Well, I'd say torque it down. I'm just going to wind that in with a spanner. Right, here we go. So never ever use a correct fitting spanner where you can get an adjustable wrench. Right, that is gone. That's gone nice and tight. Okie doke. Now, let's have a quick wipe over the surface. I found the pressure sender. There he is. You can go back in again. He goes in up here. I might have had to take him out actually when I was just putting the bolts in, but I don't understand why. Oh no, I probably took it out to clean it because it's a bit of a mess. Right, he's in. Again, not going medieval on that. Clean off this surface again. For some reason this bench is fucking filthy. I should really use one of my carpet squares, couldn't I? That I eulogised about the other day. Because you put shit on the carpet square and it doesn't end up with dust and crap that's all over your bloody bench that you can't see. Right, and also look at that. Right, now, next thing I think we need to do is find the gasket. What have I done with the gasket? What have I done? There it is. One gasket, oil pump. But before we put the gasket on this thing, we need to allow this thing, this pump needs to be allowed to prime. And this is where Mr. Petroleum Jelly comes in. Many uses. Petroleum jelly. It's a particularly versatile product, but it's very good because it dissolves into oil and it also allows this thing to prime. Without it, you will not prime this oil pump. It will not prime. So what I do generally is put a load in there, rotate that around so it's basically filled all of the teeth. Because the more, well, you can't put too much petroleum jelly in this thing, in all honesty, because it will just overflow. And then petroleum jelly, brace yourself. Right, that then goes in there, and we'll go for a bit more. I'll just wedge it in over the top. There we go. Right, now, so if your missus asks you why you've got petroleum jelly in your garage, there is the answer. Eloquent and truthful. Right, let's do it. So, first of all, we need to pull off this protective coating, which I put over the top of the plenum. I've already cleaned up this plenum base already. Sorry, this is the inlet manifold. I'm going to put the ram plenum base on next, but what I normally do, because there's no gasket that sits in between these two, what I tend to do is put a little bit of blue Hylamar, which is quite a nice gasket jointing compound, stays flexible. Whee! And it's really enthusiastically trying to get out of the tube here. It's going absolutely everywhere, but never mind, these things happen, don't they? Just really want to put a gentle smear across the whole of the face. Some of this stuff's going to squirt out, so probably quite a lot of the stuff will squirt out the side. I like using this kind of stuff because it doesn't impact on the inlet. So if I was to use silicone up here, then someone would really have to kind of shoot me. You don't want to be using silicone up here. This is going tacky quite quickly, but then it is a bit nippy today. So really what I want to do is wait till it goes all stringy, and that's kind of the solvent in it is started to go. Yeah, solvent has started to go on that, that's good. Because it's ready to put on. Do that first. So we've got the trumpet base, which is just over here, I'll be back directly. And he goes on. And just drops onto two dowels. There he is. He's on. Right, I've kind of got almost as far as I can go without doing these exhaust manifolds. I really want to get the alternator on, but I need to tighten this exhaust manifold up first of all. Blah de blah de blah de blah. Kind of got everything really in place, and I really want to. I suppose I could prime the engine, couldn't I? No, because I can't put the ignition on to tell if it's got oil pressure or not. Because I've got all these loose cables that would go to the alternator kicking around, which are direct feed to the battery. So I need to get the alternator in place, then I can prime the oil pump, and then I can kind of finish off building it up, putting it back together again. So hopefully those gaskets can arrive tomorrow. It's chilly out. I'm going to go and build a loom, I think. Tidy up here, and I'm going to go and build a loom.